Hello, and welcome to this custom Click to Reveal interaction tutorial for Adobe Captivate. Today, we're working in Adobe Captivate 2019 release. This type of interaction is ideal for projects seeking to give learners the freedom to learn more about a group of items in the order and to the frequency they wish. In this interaction I created, learners can select each of the hiragana vowel characters to learn more about how they are written and spoken. While this interaction is perfect for exploring characters of foreign languages that don't use the Latin alphabet, it could be easily adapted to fit almost any topic. Let's preview this interaction, which I titled Hiragana Vowel Review. From the main screen that appears, learners are presented with 5 buttons. Each button shows a hiragana vowel character and its English letter equivalent. The buttons can be clicked in any order the learner wishes. So let's see what happens when I click the A button. A pop-up window appears with more information about this letter. On the left side of the window, I'm presented with information about how this letter is spoken. I can see what the character looks like, as well as what its English equivalent letter is, which is A. I'm also shown how it's pronounced. It's pronounced ah. To check my pronunciation, I can select the play button to hear a short audio clip of a native Japanese speaker saying the letter
Ah.
On the right side of the screen, I can see how the letter is written, specifically the stroke order used when drawing the character. So for this letter, I would start by drawing the top horizontal line from left to right. Next, I would draw the middle vertical line from top to bottom. Finally, I draw the bottom loop from the middle and outward to the left. When I'm done learning about this letter, I can close the window by clicking the Select to Continue link to go back to the main screen. Now let's try clicking the I button to learn about that letter. I'm presented with similar information. I can see that it's pronounced E. And once again, click the play button to hear a native speaker say the letter to check my pronunciation.
E.
And on the right, I can see how this letter would be written. The left line is drawn first from top to bottom, with a small hook coming up at the end. The right line is drawn second, from top to bottom. I'll close the window by clicking the Select to Continue link in the bottom right corner. Let's check how this works for the U button.
U.
And the E button.
E.
And finally, the O button.
O.
So as you can see and hear, this is a unique and engaging way to allow your audience to explore the basics of the Japanese language at their own pace. This is a custom Click to Reveal interaction that's developed from scratch within Captivate. Just as a little overview of how everything works behind the scenes, you can see in the film strip that this interaction is not just a single slide. It's actually made up of 6 unique slides. From the main slide here, which is what is currently shown on the screen, each button is actually navigating learners to a brand new screen, even though there's an illusion that everything's only happening on one screen. There are many ways to handle Click to Reveal interactions in Captivate, but this is an easy approach that can be done quickly because of how much we can duplicate, and it minimizes the need for extremely robust advanced actions. Though we will be using some advanced actions, they'll be pretty simple, I promise. Because we are touching on advanced actions, it will be helpful if you have at least a basic understanding of how variables and advanced actions work within Captivate. But because we'll be going through all of the steps together, as long as you follow along with this tutorial, you'll be able to create your own version of this interaction to fit your content. Again, this is a completely custom-built interaction, but we can set it up easily by following 3 major steps: setting up the main launch page, developing unique pages for each content area, and configuring button functionality and navigation. Step 1. Setting up the main launch page. I've created a brand new project file with all of my images and audio clips loaded into my project library. You can see I've imported a background image, my logo, the audio clips of each letter being spoken, and image files for each letter. Let's get everything laid out like we want on our main launch page. I'll start by applying the background image to the background. I'll also add my logo in the bottom right corner and apply a little bit of alpha so it blends in and isn't overly distracting. I'll add a title to the top and write some instructional text directly below that tells learners what to do. Next, we'll want to place our 5 main letter buttons on the screen. To do this, select the Interactions button at the top of the screen and the Button option from the drop-down. A default text button will appear. I'm going to replace this default button with an image button that I've already created. To do this, select the first drop-down under the Style section of the Properties panel, and then select the Image button option. Next, select the folder icon to browse for the specific button image you'd like. I'll start by grabbing my A button. Next, I'll position and resize the button so it looks exactly how I want it to on the page. I'll repeat this process to create and adjust my next 4 buttons: the I button, the U button, the E button, and the O button. Now that I've got all 5 buttons on the screen, let's preview the project. The main launch page for our project looks just like we want, and all 5 buttons are selectable. Unfortunately, clicking on the buttons doesn't do anything quite yet. Our next steps will be to create the content associated with each letter, and then to configure each button to present the correct information. Again, there are many ways to create click-to-reveal interactions in Adobe Captivate. But as we've already covered, we're creating this one by making brand new screens that will be navigated to when each button is selected. Because of this, let's make sure to name each of our screens so that when we start configuring things in a future step, it will be easy to keep track of where we're going at all times. I'm going to name this screen Launch Slide. While we're at it, let's go ahead and name all of the items we've placed on our launch page thus far. This is a good practice so that it's easy to identify all of your moving parts. To keep things simple, I'll name my A button, I'll name my I button, and so on and so forth. Now when we look at our timeline, we can see our key assets have been appropriately named. Okay, now that everything on our main launch page has been set up how we'd like, let's move on to create our new content-specific slides. Step 2. Developing unique pages for each content area. Alright, recall that our interaction will actually be made up of 6 slides, not just 1. To give the illusion of everything happening on our main screen, we want to make sure that the background of all of our content slides are cosmetically identical to our launch page. Rather than create our first new slide from scratch, let's make things easy on ourselves by simply copying our main launch page and working from there. I'm going to right-click the launch slide from the film strip and select the Duplicate option from the menu. A new slide has been created. This slide will be what appears when our A button is selected and will contain all of the information for our A character. So let's name this slide appropriately as A Slide. The next thing we're going to do is delete all of our buttons. When learners are reviewing the A letter content, we don't want those buttons to be functional. We want all interactivity happening in that pop-up window. However, to keep that illusion of the action never leaving the main screen, we're going to import static images that appear identical to the letter buttons and place them in the exact same location on the screen. Click on the Library button in the top right corner of the screen and drag over each of our letter images. Now we'll want to size and position them identically to how the letter buttons are sized and positioned on the main launch page. You could eyeball it, but again, to preserve that illusion of never leaving the main page, we want to be exact. Select the Properties button in the top right corner, and then the Options button. You can manually input the X and Y position values, as well as the height and width. I'll input the values for each image that are identical to their corresponding button on the main launch page. Okay, our new A slide looks great. Let's add one more cosmetic touch. Let's apply some alpha to the images so it appears that the buttons have been rendered inaccessible while the pop-up window is on the screen. Select any of the images and then the Style button, and then Edit Image. I'll input the alpha as 50. Rinse and repeat for each of the letter images. In clicking back and forth between A slide and launch slide in the film strip, you can see that everything looks spot on. Just to keep things organized, I'll name my images A image, I image, U image, E image, and O image. Okay, so effectively what we've done so far is set up the background of our A slide. Now let's set up the main content of the screen. Recall that our pop-up window was a giant square area. Let's insert a big square on the screen. Select the Shapes button on the top of the screen, and then pick the square shape. Draw a big square that takes up a good amount of the screen real estate. I'm going to apply a white fill so that the text box I add to the screen will be easily readable. To stay in the habit of naming my elements, I'll call this A box. Remember how on the pop-up we want to have speaking content on the left and writing content on the right? Let's draw the dotted line in the center of the box to divide these two content areas. I'll select the Shapes button once again, and this time select the Line option. Draw the line down the center of the box. In the Properties panel under Style, you can change the stroke color, weight, and style. I'm going to make mine a dashed dark gray line. Now I have two separated areas for placing content in my A box. To label each section as speaking and writing, I'll draw yet another box. This time, I'll let the fill remain gray, and I'll type speaking inside. Adjust the font however you like. Rather than repeating the whole process, just copy this box and paste it on the right side of the A box, and change the text to read Writing. I'll name these boxes A Speaking Box and A Writing Box. Again, very good habit to get into, even if you don't think you'll necessarily be creating advanced actions that use these elements. Now let's start populating with content specific to the letter A. I'm going to head to my Library panel and drag over my A images for this pop-up. I'll add a few text boxes that contain the information that's listed in the speaking side by selecting the text button from the top of the screen. And then text caption. A new text box with placeholder text will appear in the middle of the screen. I'll type my English letter equivalent text. Adjust the font however you like. Then, I'll copy and paste the text box to create my pronunciation text that will go directly underneath. Feel free to nudge things around until you think it looks nice. I'll also remember to name all of the items I've just imported and created to include both A images as well as the two text boxes. Next, I'll add the button that will allow learners to trigger an audio clip of the letter being spoken. Select the button option under the Interactions menu at the top of the screen. Once again, the default text button will appear, and once again, you'll want to change it to an image button. Let me first move it down to the general area I want it to go, and then I'll change the button type. I've already created another specific button for this, so I'll navigate to the Style area of Properties, select Image button from the drop-down menu, and then I'll click the folder icon to browse my files and select it. Okay, looks good. One final thing to add to the screen before we've got everything we need is the link that closes the window. Of course, you could use a button instead of a link if you prefer, but I'm going to use a link. I'll select the text button and text caption option once again, and type Select to continue in the text box that appears. Again, feel free to change the font, color, and size however you wish. I'll drag down to the lower right corner of my A box. We'll add the link later in step 3. For now, let's just name our play button in our Continue text box. I'll call the Continue text box A Continue, and the play button A Audio button. Excellent, we've set up our first content slide. I have more good news. You don't need to repeat this process in full for the other letters. With the magic of duplication, we're going to eliminate the need to repeat the majority of these steps. From the film strip, duplicate the A slide 4 times. Rename your duplicated slides so that there's one for each letter. I'll name my next slide I slide, the next slide U slide, the next slide E slide, and the final one O slide. Now, obviously, you don't want the A content to appear when each letter button is selected. Let's go to your I slide and start making some quick customizations. For starters, let's replace both A images with I images. Right-click the first A image and select Replace Image. From the Select Image from Library window that appears, I'll select my first I image, and it will take the place of my A image. I'll do the same with my other A image, replacing with the second I image. Now I just need to modify the text in the text boxes. The English letter equivalent is now I instead of A, and this letter is pronounced as E instead of Ah. Finally, I'll update the names of all of the items on this screen. Because of how I named things for my A slide, all I really need to do is change the A to an I for all of these names. Great, now our I slide is done. That wasn't so bad, was it? Let's repeat the process for the U slide, E slide, and O slide. Again, all we're really doing here is replacing our 2 images and changing the text in our 2 text boxes as needed. And then finally, adjusting the item names. Alright, step 2 is complete. We've successfully created a unique page for each content area. Let's move on to configuring our buttons and creating our advanced actions. Step 3. Configuring button functionality and navigation. Now we're on the home stretch. The first thing we want to do in order to configure our interaction is tell each button on the launch page to take us where we want to go. I'll select my A button and then select the Actions button from the Properties panel. Under the On Success dropdown, I'll select the Jump to Slide option and then select the A slide. Repeat this process with the other 4 buttons, designating that the I button should point to the I slide, the U button should point to the U slide, the E button should point to the E slide, and the O button should point to the O slide. Okay, let's preview our project and see what happens. If I select the A button, the A slide appears, just like we want it to. Except now, as you can see, we're kind of stuck, since we haven't yet established a way for the learner to navigate themselves back to the main launch page. Let's close the preview and remedy this. Head to the A slide and select the Continue text box. Highlight the text in the box and select the Link button under the Style area of the Properties panel. Within the Link To window that appears, select Slide and then select the Slide Radio button, and specify you want it to navigate back to the launch page. The text has now become a selectable link. Let's preview our project again. We can now select the A button, show the A screen content, and then navigate back to the main page by selecting the link. Let's repeat adding this link functionality to the other 4-letter screens. Last but not least, let's incorporate functionality with our audio buttons. As with most things, there are several ways to do this. Let's walk through the easiest way first. I'll go to my A slide and select the A audio button. Then from the Actions area in Properties, I'll select the Play Audio option from the On Success dropdown, and select my A audio clip. This is the easiest way to make the button work, but it's not necessarily the best. Let me preview the project to show you why. I'll select the A button, and my A slide will appear. I'll click on the play button, and you'll hear the audio clip.
A.
Without doing anything else, you'll see how the slide is automatically advancing to the I slide. This obviously isn't what we want to happen. What's going on is that by triggering the play button, we're allowing the timeline to advance, even if we don't want it to. This kicks the next chronological slide into motion without us specifically telling it to. So let's close out and fix this issue. Instead of applying the play audio action directly, we're going to create our very own advanced action. Select the project option from the top of the screen and then Advanced Actions. We'll call this new action A Audio. There are two things we want to happen when the learner clicks the play button. We want the audio clip to play, so let's select Play Audio and then A Audio Clip. Next, we're going to tell the project to pause. This will prevent it from automatically advancing against our wishes. Select Save As Action to finish and close the window. Now reselect your play button. Select Execute Advanced Action under the Actions button, and select the action we just created, A Audio. Okay, let's preview again.
A. A. A.
Great, the issue is resolved. In fact, we can make the clip play as many times as we want, and the project won't auto-advance. I do notice that the click sound is a little annoying, as it makes the audio harder to hear.
A.
I'm going to close the preview, select the play button, and from the Actions area, select the Disable Click Sound option. This will make the audio clip a little easier to hear. Again, through the magic of duplication, we don't have to create a new advanced action for the remaining letters from scratch. Just go back into the Advanced Actions window, select the A Audio action, and then the Duplicate Action button in the top right corner. I'll rename this new action I Audio and change the A MP3 clip to I MP3. Select Update Action to save the new action. Keep duplicating and making the adjustments for the remaining 3 letters. Once you're done, close out of the Advanced Actions window and apply the correct advanced action to each screen's play button. Don't forget to disable the click sound for each. All right, let's preview to make sure everything works like it should.
A. 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 I. 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 U. 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 E. 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 O. O. O.
And we're done. It works just like we wanted it to. Thank you so much for following along with my tutorial. I hope you had fun, and you're ready to create more custom click-to-reveal interactions like this one.